Hello, my name is Barbara Harrison. I'm a Buncombe County Master Gardener. I have been gardening and helping people start new gardens for 5 years. I'm excited today to share with you the process of starting a vegetable garden. Even in these difficult times, you can still grow food. This is part 3 of Vegetable Gardening 101, where we're actually going to talk about planting seeds or planting transplants. So gardeners use a combination of seeds and transplants in their vegetable garden, and their advantages and disadvantages of both is listed here in this small table. One thing to remember about seeds is that they have a certain germination time. And the germination is the time it takes for a seed to become a small plant. And then you have to think about that small plant has to grow in the ground before it can actually give you anything to harvest. So that's what I mean here by time lag from seed to harvest. Seeds, you have a lot more varieties of different types of vegetables that you can get through seeds, and they have a tendency to be less expensive. Transplants are often called starts, and they're basically baby plants grown in containers called sets. And they will give you a huge jump start on the season because they're already a little plant when you get them, and that means that you will be able to harvest much earlier. However, with transplants, you're somewhat limited based on what the local garden centers have to offer. So these are examples of some vegetables that can be put into do direct seeding into the ground. If you look at radishes, turnips, and carrots, these are root vegetables, and they like to grow in place. Green garden peas, beans, sweet corn, these vegetables are quick to germinate once the soil warms up. And they will probably germinate within 5 days. The next list, these are vegetables that are best to do through a transplant. And you can see here they're tomatoes, peppers, etc. So those that you can decide whether you want to direct seed or transplant. In this slide, these particular vegetables, you can go either way. With lettuce, spinach, and kale, they have lots of starts of those. They have starts of cucumbers, squash, zucchini, pumpkins, and melons, so you can go either from seed or transplant on these, as well as with onions and garlic. For planting times, when should I plant the seeds? The cool season crops, you will probably can plant them in the middle of April while I am making this video is a good time. You won't get, typically these vegetables are planted in March, but you can probably still plant your kale and lettuce. However, as the temperatures outside become warmer, your kale and lettuce has a tendency to bolt, forming flowers, and that will make those vegetables taste very bitter. But you can definitely grow your peas. You can put them in now, middle of April, and harvest them in the summer. For the warm season vegetables, such as your tomatoes and peppers, the time to put them in the ground, whether we're doing a transplant or a seed, is on Mother's Day, May 10th, or after. At this time, the soil has reached a high enough temperature that you will be successful. When direct sowing seeds into the ground, you need to pay attention to your seed packet because this is a wealth of information. If you can't read the seed packet, you can go back to the seed catalog where you purchase the seeds and they will have the same information. But what's on the back of the seed packet, it will tell you how deep to plant the seed, how to space the seeds, when you expect days to maturity, and when you would expect a harvest. And if you're going to do a fall garden, the seed germination that's on the packet might be a little bit longer because you're dealing with colder weather. This is an excellent resource. I have this listed as my first resource at the end of this PowerPoint. This is a garden calendar. It is an 8-page document, and you can see here that it gives you a lot of information. And as far as when to put our transplants and seeds in, we need to look at the purple line, because this is what the timing for Western North Carolina. And you should find the link for this below the video. So when directly putting seeds into the ground, obviously you want to cultivate the area, and usually you can dig a little furrow in the ground or a little a trough as we see here. And the larger the seed, the deeper you're probably going to go. And to keep track of where you put your vegetables in, because eventually you're going to put soil over these seeds that are being planted here, you can put one stick at one end of the row and another stick at the other end of the row and put a string in between them, and that will tell you where those vegetables are planted. Because when these young veggie plants come up, they can look a lot like weeds. If you're going to grow peas and beans and you're going to be using a trellis, it's important to get the trellis in before you put the seeds in the ground. And as you see here, these are beans on the upper picture here, and they are very nicely spaced. But for some plants, such as carrots and radishes, these are your root plants. Thinning is a process that you will need to do, and that simply means that you need to pull out a few of the plants as you go down the row. Because if these plants are growing together, they're competing for light, water, and nutrients. There's not much airflow, and the carrot isn't going to be able to mature to its full size when it's got all these other carrots growing around it. If you're not going to grow cucumbers or squash from a trellis, you can use the hilling methodology, which is shown on the lower picture here, where you create a small hill and put in a few seeds, and the plants will grow along the ground. Planting transplants, once you have them accustomed to your garden, you use the same methodology for seeds. You want to put them at the right spacing, and you want to plant them at the same depth that they are growing in these packs. Before you put them in the ground, it's a good idea to water this pack maybe 24 hours before they go into the ground, and definitely water them once you have put them in the ground, and you can go ahead and fertilize them with whatever fertilizer that you happen to have. Buying transplants provides you with a great way to support our local farmers and garden centers. And when you choose the plant, you want to choose a plant that doesn't look stressed. You can do that by looking at how the plant is growing in the container. If the soil has pulled back from the container, that indicates that the plant is probably root bound and has not been watered regularly. And in my experience, if you're looking at tomatoes and squash and they've already flowered, you usually won't get much of a harvest. This is a list of our local garden centers in Buncombe County in the Asheville area that grow vegetable starts. The ASAP local food guide, this is just a list of our regional farmers that sell plant starts. You can also look at your tailgates, farmers markets. These are also good places to find transplants, and check out your local nurseries to see what they have. So now that you've got the garden in, it's time to relax. And it's also spend time in your garden. Place a chair or bench in the garden and have your morning coffee out there. That's a nice break from watching the news these days. And notice if you have any kind of insects flying around. Are there bees or other insects? And look at your plants, because they're going to tell you how they're feeling. If the leaves are wilted, that means you need to water more deeply. If the leaves turn color, that could be a nutrient deficiency. Chewing could be an insect involved. All of this, the Master Gardener Helpline from Buncombe County can help you figure out what your plants are trying to tell you. And be sure to remove any dead or diseased plant material from your garden, and don't put those in the compost bin, but throw them in the trash. And flowers, flowers, flowers. Get them in your garden, even if all you can do is put a couple of pots of flowers in the garden. They not only will give you color, but they will bring in those most important pollinators. And these are some examples of flowers that I have used successfully. This is a list of my references. The North Carolina planting calendar, this one here is the one that on the top is the one that I had in the PowerPoint slide. That you find these references that are on the screen. They will be located below this video. And I've got several of them here. We have basic vegetable gardening references and the spring and fall frost dates. So you can find the references below this video, but you can also find them on this website. And once again, this is the Buncombe County Garden Helpline information, and feel free to call in the hours when the master gardeners are running the helpline. So thank you very much. Put in that vegetable garden, folks. You can do this and enjoy the harvest.